At a time when women were non-existent at the top of the Trinidad and Tobago banking sector, she broke through the ceiling. She was the chief executive of the TNT Chamber, president and country head of Republic Bank, president of the American Chamber. All of these positions she held as the very first female. Now into her retirement, she's grooming the next generation of TNT's women's leaders. But it comes at a moment in our history when our women are seemingly under attack in all sectors of our society. It is now we talk with Catherine Kumar one-on-one. This is ViewPoint. Ms. Catherine Kumar, welcome to ViewPoint.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here after such a long break.
You're a trailblazer among women in Trinidad and Tobago. You've sat on boards and in chairs, around tables where women were never present before. When you look at the headlines across Trinidad and Tobago at the start of 2020, does it pain you a little bit? You're also the co-founder of Plot.
Yes.
When you look at the headlines,
Yes.
How do you feel?
The headlines pain me a lot, a lot. To be honest, I've gotten to the point where I wonder, do I really want to look at the headlines? Do I really need to look at the newspapers? And if something is critical happening in the country, I'm going to hear about it from someone else. Because you open and there's nothing positive in the newspaper. And I mean, you all are the media, right? So I think the media has a part to play. I know you want to do sensationalizing sort of, reporting. But there must be positive things in the country happening that we can try to bring across other than all the negatives. The murders are happening, yes, they're happening, but they don't have to be front page.
When you look at everything that you've accomplished, I mean, you've been phenomenal in being the first female in so many banking institutions and on so many financial institutions. Are our females in Trinidad and Tobago in 2020, in the 21st century, allowed to be the best that they can be, achieve everything that they can achieve in their lives?
Are they allowed? That question, allowed? Probably not, because we need persons to recognize the females and give them opportunities. We are seeing a lot of advancement. I mean, there are quite a few companies who now have it in their governance policy, for instance, for some sort of gender balance on boards and at the executive level. But it's taken quite a long while, and if Trinidad and Tobago really wants to get into anything like developed status, we need to move forward at a quicker pace than we are. So, I mean, some of the big banks, Republic Bank, you would see, women on the board, and I know that they make an effort to bring on women onto the board also. But as a rule, I don't think we are seeing enough of that. In the state enterprises, I think we're seeing more of females being given an opportunity. And in government offices, I mean, most of the PSs are in fact females. But in private sector, that is not happening sufficiently. And there are many women who can contribute a lot more if they were given the opportunity to do such. And this is all part of what Plot was about also, to try to encourage younger women coming up what they need to do in order to be able to make themselves available. Because let me just say, and I say this a lot when I do speeches to women, we have a lot of blame to take as women. We don't do some of the very important things that you need to do if people are to get to know you. And I give an example of myself when I was at a company for over 10, going on nearly 15 years, and I would act for the CEO all the time, and I could never get the CEO position. And of course, Alchico. I didn't want to say the name, but as you said it, right? And I mean, I wouldn't get the position, and I was, well, this has to be because I'm a woman. So yeah, you take everything out of me, you make me do all the work, but you don't give me the post and the salary and the perks that come with it. And one day I said, as a matter of fact, I was listening to a tape, and in the tape, they said, if you want a post in an organization, go and talk to that person and find out what you need to do. So I went in and talked to the then CEO. And he said to me, Catherine, you're well known in the insurance industry, but outside of the insurance industry, how well are you known? And the honest truth, it was not. I was not very well known, all right? Because my circles of influence was within the insurance industry. And he said, when you go home tonight, can you pick up the phone and call the CEO of Neil and Massey? Back then, Neil and Massey. No, definitely not. Can you call the CEO of Republic Bank? No. Well, that is what you need to do if you want to become CEO here. And that was the first day of the rest of my life.
You went on to
changed
achieve,
after that.
Yeah, you went on to AMCHAM. In 3 years at AMCHAM, you would go on to be president of AMCHAM. You went on to Republic Bank, and you were the first female inspector of financial...
Not Republic Bank, Central Bank.
Central Bank, that is. And that really was the changing point of your life.
It was.
But how challenging was it for you, having gone on to achieve the presidency of AMCHAM and everything after that, to now work in a male-dominated environment?
Strangely, I found I got a lot of support. Even becoming the president of AMCHAM. And I mean, one of the other things is you have to go into these organizations and contribute. You can't just go and sit back. You have to become vocal, you have to contribute, work on the committees and so. So having achieved that, I remember on the night when I was taken over as president, and David White was leaving. He was the president. You're young. But back then, David White was, who was the most important person in Trinidad and Tobago? The Prime Minister or David White, right? That's how important AMCHAM CEO, right? And I was like, I mean, I was literally shivering in my boots. You know, can I really take this over? Can I really do this? And most of the previous presidents also had been foreigners of big companies, EOG Resources and all of that. And in my little speech, I said, you know, it's going to be very difficult for me to walk in David White's shoes. And a voice from behind said, Catherine, do not try to walk in his shoes. Walk in your own shoes and make your own footsteps. And that was a great learning for me. And I got a lot of support. The board members supported me. At that time, I was the only female on the board. I brought on other women onto the board also. And I got good support. I found that they were not as willing to pull you down. The ones who were willing to pull you down and trying to pull you down, I find with those when you were at your executive level, and it's like everybody competing for one CEO's job, and it's a fight, it's a tug of war down there. But once you got to that level, I think people really supported me.
What were some of the challenges you met?
Some of the challenges, well, for one, married woman. And we talk about, you know, balance in your life. You have to give family time, you have to give time to your home and other job. But these positions, you cannot do these jobs in 8 to 4. It's just not possible. So you're constantly working late. You're constantly having to travel, go on overseas trips, go out for dinners, conferences, and so. So one of the challenges would be having a home life and having support if you have extended family, which luckily I did, who would be there for you, and to try to make that work as best as possible. At that time, I had a very young daughter, that I adopted, and I was so anxious to have this daughter. But I couldn't spend the time that, you know, I probably needed to spend with her. And everything is just one circle. And if you give more on this side, something on this side is going to suffer. So maybe I feel personally that the time I should have spent with my daughter and my family life suffered a bit. But I had an extremely supportive mother. And she was there. She was there for me all the time.
When we come back on ViewPoint, how far behind is Trinidad and Tobago in terms of first world standard of advancing women's rights? How far behind is Trinidad and Tobago in terms of first world standard of advancing women's rights? You talk about
that whole pregnancy factor. You talk about when women are pregnant and they have children and they have families of their own. You know, how far are we behind?
We are very far behind. I mean, I just came back from Canada on vacation, and my sister-in-law, we were discussing this. You know, when a woman gets pregnant over there and has a baby, they get 1 year leave. And that is considered as something being done for the society, because that mother is with that child. And you don't lose your job. Your job is held for 1 year. So if that's bringing a temp for the year, that's what they would do, right? Now, I understand that at a CEO level, it might be hard to bring in a temp for 1 year. And generally, you would hope that by the time you reach CEO level that you're beyond that. But not necessarily, yeah? But I mean, generally you would be. But we don't have facilities. We don't have facilities. A lot of the companies overseas would have facilities for childcare. We don't have things like that. And it's a hustle and a bustle with the traffic and everything of getting home. So it is very, very hard for women to move forward if they have several children. And also if they have a husband who is not kind of doing 50-50 sort of thing, or maybe sometimes even more than 50%. You know, and today I'm doing this, tomorrow you're doing that. So we are far behind. I've been out of this a while, and I knew the stats off the top of my head, but I can't remember them now. But really and truly, when you look at the stats, we are far behind as far as, you know, gender equality in Trinidad and Tobago. And even for the world, the last reading I had, it said it will probably take until about 2030 to even try to get close to 30%. So Trinidad, you know, we probably talking 2050 or beyond that.
Has our politics helped or not helped?
I mean, the politics has helped in a way because we have seen a woman prime minister, we have seen a woman attorney general and stuff like that, and we do have quite a lot of women in the cabinet and at Senate level. And you know, you talk about having this gender balance, but I still sense, and this might be my personal thing, that even when you look at the cabinet and you look at the parliament and so, that the men run the show. Sorry to say this even for Kamala, but I still believe that is what it was. The men ran the show. And I don't think that we have seen women in politics really stand up and be seen as the leader.
Kamala Persad-Bissessar, correct me if I'm wrong, you might have still been the first female inspector of the financial institutions during her tenure.
Yes, I think so, yes.
You would have still been there. You would have retired thereafter. What did you make of our first female prime minister? You're now a plot co-founder.
Well, I mean, I was very excited when she won over as the leader over Basdeo Pandey, you know, a woman, a powerful woman, an attorney. We had seen her before, so in Parliament before, so we knew that she was capable. And I was very excited about that. I would say at the end of the term, and I was really excited about trying to see how she could change things a bit and understand the issues for women and make life a little easier and help the progression. I don't know if I could honestly say that I had seen then a strong fight for the female issues and women and getting women into their rightful place. And instead the fight became all the other things that were happening around in society. And I think we missed out on that opportunity, having a female prime minister to advance the cause of women and women's rights and the whole thing that goes with it, you know.
Let's talk a little bit about your time in the banking institutions and being the first female president and the first female in many leadership roles. You blazed a trail, you know, for the woman coming behind you. A lot of women are perhaps thankful to you for the work that you've done, because as you said, on the boards of many banking institutions now sit women.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
What is the response from women across Trinidad and Tobago, especially in your sector, to you?
Response to me, I meet many females outside who come up to me. Some of them I don't even know, all right? And they, you know, they would say, Catherine, we have followed you. We know the challenges you went through. Some of them knew of all the challenges before, trying to climb and not getting to where I wanted to go, and then seeing me advance. And a lot of them say, you know, I stuck with it. I made it through. I did not give up, because some people could have given up within the Algico days. You just, well, you know what, I'm chief operating officer. Maybe that's good for a woman. Let's settle for that, right? But I was not prepared to settle. So that fight of wanting to ultimately achieve, I think, was probably a catalyst for others to want to do something else also, and to also try your best to get to another position. So, and I even meet some young women, some of them, like, I've done speeches at UE, at UTT, and so, and young women, and I'm surprised that they would even know about me. And I mean, after I'm finished with a speech, they would all come up and line up, and all of them, you know, want to tell me about what they know about me and how inspiring I have been to them, and you know, they all want some sort of mentorship afterwards.
They look up to you. Who did you look up to? You were in an era where there was nobody in your field to really look up to. We were talking about Christine Lagarde, the former France finance minister. You had local idols, if you want to call them, local people that you looked up to. How difficult was that to find someone to really look up to in your time?
Well, difficult because there weren't many, but there were still a few people who had advanced, you know. The first president of the Senate, female president of the Senate, we had her, and she had done pretty well there. But you know what, even though I was a woman, I do not find that I necessarily looked to what women did to achieve. I just looked at what successful people did to achieve. And those were the people I looked to be my mentors, people who I thought were successful and had done, you know, really done great work. I mean, you interviewed one the other day, Ken Gordon. Ken Gordon was one of those I found to be a very successful person. I would, you know, chat with him, and so I knew him. And I mean, I remember even way back in my early days, Mervyn D'Souza. Do you know that name at all?
Too young.
Too young. Probably not even born, right? But way back then, he was the first actuary in Trinidad and Tobago. And I remember I would go and sit with him and talk for long, and he I was straight out of university, and he inspired me to want to achieve. He really did. So it's all local people who I would meet along the way. And then I didn't have any one person, that this is the person. I would touch base with different people. John Andrews, for instance, you know. I would touch base with different people. So as I call names, you might find actually they're more male, you know, not female, because there weren't that many female for me to be able to be in touch with. But success, principles of success stand no matter whether you're female or male. Challenges come both ways, male, female. Our challenges may be different from yours, and we have to find ways to get around our challenges. Don't look them in the eye and say, sorry, this is too much for me. Find a way, as I say, to tunnel under it, jump over it, whatever you got to do, but find a way to get through it.
When we come back on Viewpoint,
If you had the ability to change one single thing in Trinidad and Tobago with regards to women, what would it be? Being a female and a leader, how did that both combine into the influence of your leadership at these high-ranking institutions?
I think it brought a new emotion, probably a little more of, so you know, we had a lot of IQ in the organizations before, so probably a little more EQ, right? And because I was a lot more sensitive to women in the organizations, and a lot of the organizations I worked with, mainly women at the lower levels, middle management level. So because I was able to relate to them a lot more than men probably could understand some of the issues and challenges they were facing. And I think I'm a very empathetic person, and I try to understand your situation. and I'm not like high and dry. So a particular morning and something was difficult for you at home, you know, I will understand that. You come and sit and talk to me. And people actually opened up a lot, and you don't have to tell your boss your personal issues, but people actually opened up and told me a lot of their personal issues. And that helped me in managing them because I understood what was happening. So for me, I was more about delivering. You delivered, that's good, you know.
Do you think that would have not otherwise happened had a male been the leader?
Yeah, I don't think so because, I mean, I've seen male leaders, and that little part of understanding, I think, is just very black and white, you know, very black and white. They don't try to understand what a female is going through at their home and in their life and how that could influence their work. And you give a woman an understanding of what she's going through, that woman is going to give you 120%. No such thing in maths, but, you know, you really will get way beyond. I have some women who have worked with me, and because I understood what they were going through, up to today, I could call them to help me with anything, and I'll get it done.
If you had the ability to change one single thing in Trinidad and Tobago with regards to women, what would it be?
I would say something that we have control over. I would say the working conditions for women. The working conditions. Now we have to have equity between male and female, but if we had more flexibility, then working women would have a little greater chance at success. A lot of organizations say they have flexi time, but it's not really flexi time. Flexi time, you have to choose. You're coming to work at 7:30, you're leaving at 3:30. But flexi time should really mean I could come anytime between 7 and 9, right? So on a particular morning, whatever, the babysitter didn't come out, what am I supposed to do? Can't just leave my baby there, you know, I have to find somewhere to take the child or call someone. Husband gone already, so I'm the one left at home. So do I call in sick for the day? Do I call in and say I can't come to work? But if I had flexibility there in the time, I could call in and say, this is what happened, and I'll be coming in for 9 instead, you know. And I think that flexibility is very important. And then, you know, you can make up the hours whenever. And like I said earlier, the working conditions, if you could have situations where you could have some sort of, you know, care for the young ones in the evening. They finish school at 2:30. What do you do with them between 2:30? And even if you're on flexi time, maybe 3:30 is the earliest. What do you do with them between that time and 3:30? All right? Because of the level I was at, my daughter was in my organization a lot. All right? And I would have somebody who could go and pick her up and bring her there, and she'd stay with me, and she loved it. Oh, she loved moving around the office and so. But that's not something that everyone would have the privilege to do at all. So we have to find vehicles where within those times, you know where your kids are, you could feel safe and you're not worried, and you could continue to work. So I think the working conditions.
After you retired in, I believe it was 2016.
Yes.
After you retired, you co-founded Plot, and you wanted
Before, actually.
Before.
Yeah.
And the idea was to start giving back to young ladies and to entrepreneurs, to women with a vision. Where are you at in terms of that?
All right, so we started Plot. I retired in 2016, so we probably started Plot in 2013. Yeah, so a few years before. And it was on the recognition that there are a lot of young women who need help socially in building their network, in understanding what are the things that they need to do to succeed. The men already have their network, whether it was the Oval they go to, whatever clubs, Union Club, and so some of these eventually opened up to allow women membership, but before that it was only men. So it was to find build an organization that women, and you had to be at a certain level in your organization to join Plot, because these were the people we were trying to build to get up to executive level and CEO level. And that worked out very well. We had a lot of people who were interested in it. People joined. We didn't want to charge any membership because we didn't want to put another financial burden, and therefore we did things that would just be self-supported. When we have an event, you pay for the event, and so, right? And I would say that was going extremely well. But within the last maybe year, it has slowed down a bit. The other co-founder has migrated. And when after I retired in 2016, I really felt that I wanted to do different things with my life and not be as involved in the business world. And therefore, I also took a little step back. So we have a new executive in place now. We're appointing a new board, and both Jillian and myself are still there hand holding and with them. But we need to get the we need to get it rolling again and really get back on its feet.
You were superwoman in the banking institution, but you also had your health challenges that ultimately sort of made your decision for you, and you made up your mind that you were going to call it quits.
Yes, and I mean, that came very much like a surprise to me, I suppose. An aneurysm, there's no warning, there's no sign before. But, I always say, and I'm a believer, I thank God that we found the aneurysm before it ruptured. Because when an aneurysm ruptured, it's kind of almost death on your plate, right? So, I mean, I'd been getting this headache, and I told the doctor about it. And she said, Catherine, I'm tired of hearing about this headache. You're going to go and do an MRI and MRE. And we did both. Normally, they'd only do an MRI, but she said MRA also, and the MRA showed it up. And I have to say thanks to Caribbean Heart Care at St. Clair. They were very, quick on it. Right away, they got a doctor from Venezuela who came over. He was doing this thing day in and day out, so he was really good at it. And they were able to go in, and no massive surgery, cutting your skull or anything like that, minimally invasive surgery. And, it had a little challenge, but everything worked out. And from there afterwards, I kind of felt that maybe my life is leaning towards something different. I felt I'd given a lot. I'd been working since university, and I think I'd really given a lot to this country and to the business world, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to spend a little more time with myself. I want to spend a little more time with my daughter. Even though she is studying overseas, I could go visit her now and actually spend some time by her, and I do that. Strangely, I wanted to spend some more time in the home. I never knew what it was like to go in the kitchen and cook or to clean. And I enjoy cooking and baking now. I've put some of the things I've done on Facebook, actually. I actually enjoy doing that. And mainly helping women, but in a different way now. I don't have the time, or I don't want to put the time towards a full mentoring of women, but I do a lot of speeches and to the young women, university level organizations would ask me to come and speak at their Women's Day or anything like that, and give advice. And a lot of my advice is learnings from my life, because don't think I did it right all the way. I had lots and lots of challenges, and there are many things I did wrong, but as I tell them, I never stayed down on the ground. I always got up and found another way to do it and another way to do it.
Your spirituality played a major part in your life. You said in a 2016 interview with the TNT Guardian, my walk with God is very strong. How did your spirituality help you throughout your career and everything you went on to achieve?
Well, I would say it probably was the guiding factor. Believing that, God was really working in my life. And because I would go to him and pray for how he wanted me to do something. And I always say, even not getting the position at Alchico was God's answer for me. Because I always wanted to become CEO of a large financial institution, meaning a bank. And if I'd gotten the CEO position at Alchico, I know I would have stayed there, and that would have been it for the rest of my life, And not getting that forced me to move another way, and I think opened up bigger doors for me. So that was God's answer. God has worked in my life in so many ways. My daughter, being able to get a beautiful daughter that I treasure and feel so great about. He has worked in my life with my family, directing me when it was time to get out of the business world and it was time to do something else, get more involved in the church, and spend a little more time. I didn't have time before to do that. And I really believe that he is leading me every way. At times when I think I'm not hearing him or seeing him, I tell myself he has not left me, all right? Listen to the call, he is there. And I think in my dying day, I will.
Ms. Catherine Kumar, thank you very much for being on ViewPoint.
Thank you very much for having me.